Meditation is one of those elusive, esoteric things that turn a lot of people off. So today I wanted to sit down with one of my meditation teachers to talk about this topic and how we make it more accessible to the everyday person. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today's episode is with my friend and teacher, Light Watkins. Now, I've known Light for actually many years, and he taught my husband how to meditate in person. So pretty cool connection there. And he just has a lot of really wonderful information. And this meditation technique has been very instrumental for me in managing my stress over the years and just finding those pockets of peace and quiet as I've dealt with just a lot in my life, having a special needs child, pregnancy, new baby, and a lot of things. And so I really love sharing this information with my audience. May not be one of my most popular viral episodes, but I'm hoping it reaches the right people and that it can be super helpful. So make sure you check out Light and his brand new book. I'm going to make sure his book is linked down in the show notes for you so that you can check that out as well. And thank you to two sponsors of today's episode. The first one is going to be Viva Rays. They are my go-to source for protecting my circadian rhythms. They also have fantastic low EMF headphones, and they've got a great sleep mask. If you can't control all the blue light getting into your bedroom, I highly recommend that. The second one is going to be upgraded formulas. You can use my code YOGI12 or YOGI if you've already used that one before. They are a fantastic way to check in on your mineral balance, see what's going on, and test, right? They also have great magnesium supplements and other mineral supplements. My code there is YOGI12 or YOGI to save. So thank you again for tuning in to today's episode. I'm excited for you to watch it, and I'll talk to you again soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am super happy to have today's guest on. It's funny. I've known Light since, I guess, 2018, I think is the first time we met. I don't remember.
It would have been before then, I imagine.
I think it was actually 2017. But yeah, I've known him for a while, and then he's on a podcast tour right now. So this is how we're reconnecting, and just so excited to have you here, Light.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to be on with you and to have a part catch up, part interview conversation.
Yeah. I got an email said, would you like to have Meghan Markle's podcast or Meghan Markle's meditation teacher on your podcast? And I was like, well, actually, he's actually my husband's meditation teacher too.
That's right.
He's still meditating. I'm really proud of him. But I think you taught my husband. I think you taught him in 2018, maybe. But
yeah, I think that would have been like right before the pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's so cool to have you.
Aren't you teaching or something? Did you take a teacher training?
I was going to take the teacher training, and then I just had this idea that I really wanted to get pregnant.
It was either teach meditation or get pregnant.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I'm either going to get pregnant, and this pregnancy thing is going to take up all my time, or I'm going to do this meditation teacher training and devote all my time to that. And so I haven't taken it off of my possible things I want to do in the future, but that's kind of what ended up happening, was that I just decided to go on this kind of journey to get pregnant. And that ended up taking longer than I thought it was going to take, and a lot more emotion and time. So I'm glad I didn't jump down that rabbit hole. But it was when I did learn this technique and how to meditate, that was the first thing that came to mind, is like, oh my gosh, I want to teach this to other people. It's helped me so much that I just wanted to teach it. But yeah, it's still on the to-do list as a future, but I've taken.
I know the feeling very well. Yeah.
Yeah. You've been teaching for how many years now?
I started in 2007 teaching full time. So it would be like 15 plus years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Living the dream over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty cool to see how you've evolved even since I met you. You've kind of done this whole nomad thing and teaching all over the world. And it's just, yeah, it's very cool to watch.
Yeah, it's been quite the ride. And one of the things I talk about is that you're either by your choices, you're either choosing adventure or you're choosing drama. There's no neutral path. And the way you get to adventures, you have to choose to follow your curiosity with things that light you up inside. And the way you choose drama is you choose things that look good on the outside, that society may validate, but it doesn't really feel quite aligned. And so, and then your experience in life is the cumulative effect of that. So if you continue doing that over and over and over, your life becomes more chaotic, more dramatic, not necessarily externally. It could be internal drama, internal chaos, which manifests as anxiety, depression, and worry, incessant worry, negative self-talk, all of that. And if you choose adventure, neither choice is going to be necessarily comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. But if you choose adventure and doing the things that feel aligned, it's not always going to make sense to other people. It may not even make sense to you a lot of the time, but you'll be living in a state where you don't quite know how things are going to go. But you know that it's going to work out for the best. And internally, the experience is just kind of like that excited sense of anticipation, like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. I wonder how my bills are going to get paid tomorrow. I don't know. But you've seen the net appear. Yeah, you've seen the net appear, over and over and over. So it's going to happen, usually right when you need it to happen, and it's all good.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking about this a little bit before I turn on the camera. After your book Bliss More came out, that was where I initially found you. I was one of these people that was like super opposed to podcasts. And now I'm talking to you like I've done over 200 episodes, but my husband would always be listening to podcasts. I'm like, oh my God, these stupid podcasts. And everything in our life was kind of just falling apart and a complete wreck. And he's like, just listen to a podcast. This is a really good one, is Rich Roll. Just listen to this Rich Roll podcast. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. I'm so stressed out. Everything's falling apart right now. I will listen to this stupid podcast. And it happened to be you talking with Rich Roll about your book, Bliss More. And something in that interview just like hit me, just like, it's hard to just explain that feeling inside. It's like, I think Abraham Hicks calls it like the inner ding, it vibrates with you and you're like, oh, something about this just really makes a lot of sense. And I can't explain why, but that was, I think, one of the first times in a really long time that I just said, all right, I got to get this book. I got to check this out. And I remember reading, I had been a yoga teacher for 10 years at that time. Mm-hmm. And I kind of was just thinking, God, meditation is just so torturous. It's just stupid. And you had this experience too, I think too, as a yoga teacher, like you're leading a class of people and they're so relaxed and they're so chill. And they're like, thank you for that. And like hugging you. And you're just like, that's great. I'm so glad you feel good, but I'm a stress mess. Like as soon as you leave, I might break down and cry because things are just so crazy in my life, But at that point, I was just willing to try it. I was open to it. And I remember trying the technique that you had in that book and just feeling this like, oh my gosh, I haven't felt this relaxed. And I've been teaching yoga and doing it for all these years. I just was floored by it and I had to know more and I had to know more. And then I was like, I have to meet light. and then it came that, I met Jill, who's in town, that one of your students, and learned the technique from her. And then you came through town and my husband learned from you and I got to meet you. And it was just this kind of chain of events that started training me almost without knowing I was being trained by doing this practice daily, which is not religious. I know some people are scared of the whole religious thing. It's just it's a easy technique. And maybe we could even talk about that. It led me to start following the inner voice so much more. We call it following charm, right? And I know you have a way you explain it in your book as well, but
I think that was one of the first times that I was able to kind of just like turn off the logical part of my mind of like, no, you need to do this, and then just kind of open up a little bit more. And since then, it's like my life has changed, and it keeps changing in just so many amazing, like you met me all those years ago. Would you ever have thought I would come to you and say, "Hey, I have a 9-month-old baby, right? I have another child."
Well, it's not the strangest thing in the world, but yeah, I mean, it's great to see you and to see how things have evolved
Yeah.
on your end. And but mainly, I think what we want to strive for is just acceptance of how things are evolving and understanding that all of the different twists and turns that we experience on a daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal basis are a part of our growth and evolution. Even if it's so-called good things or so-called bad things, we have to go through these things in order to learn, to grow, to expand, to get more present, to become more compassionate, generous, whatever it is that we need. And so there's a conversation happening in the people who are familiar with wellness lingo, and they talk about healed, and you want to be healed, and I only want to date someone who's healed. And you can find the most healed person in the world, but they still are going to have some rough edges that aren't healed. And guess what? When you attract them into your life, that person is going to trigger you in certain ways, and you're going to trigger them in certain ways that you've probably never been triggered before, or maybe you have been, but you thought it was healed. But guess what? There's still some more to go, and that's just how it is on planet Earth, and that's a part of the evolutionary process. And when you kind of come to terms with that for yourself, you can meet life where it actually is instead of where you want it to be. Because it's when you look for life to show up where you want it to be, that's where you create suffering for yourself. And it exaggerates everything that you're experiencing. If it's something good, it makes it more than it probably actually is. If it's something that's bad, it makes it more than it actually is. And that's what can, again, create the kind of drama and chaos that we experience in our life sometimes, thinking that it's the other person's fault, but actually it's just our own inability to embrace change. If we trace the steps upstream enough, we'll come to a point where we just disconnected from the moment and we started living a story, started living a fantasy, a delusion around what we wanted life to be versus what reality actually was. So practices like meditation it allows us to kind of come back to that moment, to that present moment, so that we can then see what's actually happening and we can make better choices from that point.
Yeah, I think that clarity is a really difficult thing for people. And, a lot of people that listen to my show, they are struggling with some sort of a chronic illness or, and they're already on this alternative health path, right? So they've already kind of rejected the allopathic, typical medical model. And they're saying, all right, I know that this way that is super popular that a lot of people are doing is not for me. It's not helping me. I want to go down this more alternative route of looking at health. And I think that maybe things like meditation are kind of last on the list. It's one of the first things I recommend that people start doing, but I feel like it's one of those last things. And I even forget as well, because it's just kind of one of those things that's like, oh, just meditate. Right. But I know you've seen over the course of your teaching career, people that have chronic illnesses and they have these things going on, start a regular meditation practice. And that kind of maybe even opens the door for them to be open to other ideas, open to other ways of doing things, or even allows their nervous system, allows them to release enough stress so that their body can actually start healing. And that was, for me, being addicted to sleeping pills for 20 years. And I wanted desperately to be off of them. And within 6 months of doing a regular practice this way, I just one day said, I don't need these anymore. I think I can sleep without these tonight. And I had tried everything to get off of them, and it's like, people want to know, how'd you get off sleeping pills? What diet did you do? And what that, and I'm like, Actually, that was before I even started playing with diet, really, And so maybe we could talk about that a little bit of just the path to healing and how something like being open to meditation or some of the other things that you've seen can possibly help people, and how.
Yeah, the body knows how to heal itself when all the conditions that it needs are present. And we have a tendency to underappreciate the negative impact that stress has on our body and on our immune system. And we also underappreciate the positive impact that rest can have on the body, on the immune system. And so, ironically, lack of rest leads to more stress, and more stress causes lack of rest. So it's like a vicious cycle, and that's the beauty of a practice like a daily meditation, is that it can disrupt that cycle in a very effective way, provided that you know what you're doing. And as we talked about earlier, both of us had very clunky experiences with meditation. Mine were torture-like. Sounds like yours weren't that far from that. And then I studied with my teacher. And this is, again, I underappreciated the value of studying with a meditation teacher. But that's how people have been learning meditation for literally up until about 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
People who learned meditation learned it from a teacher in person and got supported by that teacher. And then, books start to be written about it, starting with Be Here Now, Ram Dass's book. And then people would learn from books. And then obviously, most recently, apps. People learn from apps through guided experiences. But there's really not a lot of historical precedent for guided meditation. Sit with someone in your ear telling you to envision this and imagine that. That's more like a Western approach to the ancient practice. The ancient practice is really a silent practice.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is people who rely on guided meditation have a very difficult time with silent practices. People who learn how to master the art of silent meditation have a very difficult time with guided practices.
Mm-hmm.
So they see the other one, the guided practice, as distracting. And I say, if you have to be in one of those two categories, you ideally want to be in the silent category that gets annoyed by guided meditation, because that means you can do it anywhere. Whereas if you're only guided, then you need to rely on that device in order for you to be able to feel like you can meditate. So it's kind of like you can only ride a bicycle with training wheels on it. And if you take the training wheels off, you're incapable of riding a bicycle. So, but you can only go so far with a bicycle with training wheels. You can't really go off road, can't go into other types of terrain. But versus, with meditation, you take those training wheels off, you don't need the guidance anymore. You really learn how to navigate the contours of your mind and steer through your thoughts, which is what you learn and what I learned from my teacher. You become so much more adaptable to whatever's happening around you. And you can drop right in the most chaotic of environments. And it's actually a really cool skill set to have, because it comes with so many other tangible benefits that you can experience outside of meditation, such as getting a better quality of rest when you sleep at night. And that's probably the number one benefit I've seen out of people that I've taught to meditate. I could tell you story upon story about people who are complete insomniacs, vampires, all kinds of people coming who never slept through the night, and they start meditating, and then right away they start sleeping through the night. And then from there, once the sleep comes back online, or the rest, then everything else starts to, it's like dominoes. Your immune system starts to get back balanced, your digestive system. You asked me if I'd be surprised if you had a kid. Well, your reproduction system starts operating at a higher level of efficiency. And so I used to tell people back in my early days of teaching, just as a kind of a lighthearted comment, I would say, be careful about one night stands as a meditator, because you're going to be more fertile than the Mississippi River. So people who have been using IVF for many years start meditating, and then they find that they can get pregnant without all of that. And obviously there are exceptions, and and everybody's case is exactly the same. And meditation's not a silver bullet. I get all of that. but life, everything else works a lot better if you're getting more rest and less stress on a daily basis. So that's generally how you want to think about it.
Yeah, the sleep thing, like I said, coming off of sleeping pills that I was addicted to for 20 years was like nothing more like shocking, like literally shocking to me, because I would have so much anxiety, and I still get anxiety. I mean, I'm not perfect, even though I've been meditating for, 5-6 years now, which is a lot for me, but a tiny bit for somebody like you, and some of my other teachers have been doing it a really long time, but I still get anxiety. But when I do get that anxiety, I can drop in, and I can do that anytime, and it's like, then my body can actually rest, which is amazing, because when you have anxiety and this is some people with chronic illness, a lot of them, I find that their nervous systems are very, very dysregulated. And I recommend, looking into a somatic practitioner who can help you get back in touch with your body and help you tap back into present moment. But also you're going to need something like a meditation practice to help you let that stress release from your body, which is what this practice does, is the stress release. I mean, that was huge for me in just allowing myself to rest. And I think that's what a lot of people, they want to do everything right. They want to get the diet perfect. They want to and I teach circadian rhythms and circadian health. They want to do everything perfect, sunrise and then UVA light and then the blue blockers and then, and they're like, but I still can't sleep and I'm doing this perfectly. And I'm like, because that's what you're trying to do, everything perfectly. You have, there's got to be a little bit of surrender in there as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, even in the meditation practice, we talk a lot about surrender and how you can use the daily meditation as a sort of simulator for learning how to surrender more in your life. And now that's a bad word, though, in our society, surrendering. People see that as giving up. Mm-hmm. And it's not really about giving up. It's more so about giving in to what is and potentially exploring different types of routes. And also relying more on your own awareness and understanding that your awareness can provide you with the answer more so than frantically searching for the answer externally. And you could also argue that the internal answer is going to be a better answer than any answer you can find externally. So on one hand, yes, getting rest and all the physical benefits are, one of the main reasons why people should at least consider starting a daily meditation practice. But a larger benefit really is an expansion of awareness or consciousness. You'll hear a lot of people in spiritual circles talk about consciousness this and consciousness that and cosmic consciousness. And what they're referring to is your awareness, your ability to see and make connections between things that may have appeared to be unrelated before. And we've all had this. As you get older on planet Earth, you start to see, oh, okay, my parent abandoned me. Now I have abandonment issues as a 30-year-old or 40-year-old. So there's a connection there. And a lot of times it takes an objective observer or someone like a therapist to make that connection for you. And maybe they have to sell it to you, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't believe it at first and you have to read about it in the attachment book and you have to verify and validate it through all these different resources. But you also have the internal ability to make these connections as well. And those connections are literally playing out on a moment-to-moment basis. And when you're able to see them a lot more clearly, then it allows you to sort of navigate through whatever's happening right now in a more efficient way versus not seeing those connections. So I'll just give you a very simple, generic example. Anybody who's experiencing poor health as an adult has made choices, lifestyle choices, dietary choices, emotional, choices, being in certain relationships or relationship choices. And if you have enough awareness, you may be able to see, oh, the food that I was eating led to this particular type of experience, which may have served me for part of my life, but now I want to have a child. So I want to switch that up and start to eat a different kind of diet, or I want to have a different type of lifestyle that's more conducive to this. But if I don't have that awareness, then I may still stick to the other thing because it's comfortable. It's a habit. I'm used to it. Better the devil you know, not thinking that it has an impact on the ultimate objective that I have. So when I grew up, my parents are wonderful people, very nice, very generous, kind-hearted, all the things, but they didn't know anything about diet. And so we grew up eating fast food, washing it down with soda every night, every single night. In fact, if we didn't have fast food, something was wrong. Like I was like, what's going on? So our primary objective or our priorities with eating were cost. Is it inexpensive? Taste. Does it taste good? And do I get full from it? That was it. There was no consideration to nutrition, to energy, to is this what my body needs right now? None of that was considered at all. So that was the way I ate for the first 20 something years of my life. And then it wasn't until I had this sort of random interaction with this person in Miami who said I should stop eating meat. And I decided to try it out. And I started to notice, hey, that daily headache that I normally get, and I take 2 extra strength Excedrin for before I get it, because I knew it was going to come at some point. I don't get that headache anymore. And the only thing that's changed is I stopped eating all this fast food. And I stopped drinking all this soda and eating all this sugar. That was the only thing that changed. And it was remarkable. I literally would carry around large bottles of extra strength Excedrin for the headache I knew was coming. And it just stopped once I changed my diet a little bit. So that got my attention, and I started doing more research on myself, seeing what happens if I stop eating this, what happens if I stop drinking that. And then I started reading more about the impact that diet has. And then next thing you know, I'm like full on vegetarian a few years later. I do that for many, many years. And then I said, you know what? I never really considered what it was like to have grass-fed protein. So let me introduce a little bit of that into my diet. And so it's an ever-evolving process. Like the vegetarian stuff was great because it kind of opened my mind to things I never would have had before, vegetables, fruits. And but it wasn't a thing that I wanted to, although I thought I would do it indefinitely, at a certain point, it just didn't make as much sense anymore. So I kind of had to pivot. And maybe I'll go back to it at some point. I don't know. But that was an experience that taught me that nothing is going to last forever. So don't get too committed to something thinking it's going to last forever. B, don't try to go in and convert other people as though you are the authority over whatever they're doing, because maybe whatever they're doing is serving them. It's either serving them in a positive way, or it's giving them a great point of reference like I had growing up, that when they finally do decide to pivot on their own, which is the only way change truly happens, then they'll see, oh, I don't get the headache. Oh, I can sleep better. Oh, this other thing is happening. And so it's all great. And just, again, presence. We just want that presence as a way of kind of tuning into, okay, what do I need right now? And let me start to move in that direction.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just can get caught up in the diet cult mentality. I mean, I did as a yoga teacher, I did vegan I did vegetarian first. And then I was like, let me just go all the way vegan. I'm a yoga teacher. And that's really when I started having a lot of gut issues, because I was eating a lot of lentils, a lot of beans, and my body couldn't digest it. I wasn't absorbing a lot of nutrients. And so I wanted to stay vegan. I really wanted to. And I was in a 5-day pranayama training. And my teacher, who I respected, he's Kripalu trained, been teaching over 20 years. He's like, hey, I don't think the vegan thing's working out for you, because you're not looking so healthy. I'm a little worried about you. And it took, it was like the opposite is like, he's like, I think you need to try to have some eggs maybe, or just a little bit of chicken or something, and then I started feeling better, just getting that, because I wasn't absorbing the nutrients from my food. But I was so bought into, like, I have to be this like yoga teacher. I have to stick to that. And then kind of the same thing happened to me doing carnivore. It was like, I have a carnivore channel, I'm all into carnivore, and then I'm trying to get pregnant and my thyroid wasn't optimal. And it's like, okay, I got to eat plants. But because I have these practices, we talk about adaptation energy a lot, and being more adaptable to life and not being so stuck and hell bent on fitting a certain personality or being a certain thing, because life is changing. It'll ask us to change. And so I think that having that foundation was helpful for me, but I still see people in both camps, where they're just stuck to a dietary dogma that's clearly not really working for them, but they're just so like stuck on it that they can't shift, they can't adapt.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode with Light Watkins. Make sure you go down into the show notes, grab his brand new book. I think you're really going to enjoy it. He always has so much wisdom and so many wonderful things to say. If you are enjoying this episode, make sure you hit the like button and just leave us a quick comment if you have a time. It will help to boost this episode out. I have a feeling it's, again, not going to be one of my most popular episodes, but I want to talk about these things because I think that they can really, really help people as they go through, especially if they're trying to do something like reverse leptin resistance. We have to work on that stress element. So check his book out in the comments. And then as a listener of the show, you can always save 10% on any of my courses using the code podcast. So those will be in the show notes, and get my free resources if you don't have those already. Your guide to building your perfect quantum day, linked in the show notes. All right. Thank you again for watching, listening, whichever you're doing. And let's jump back into the show.
Yeah. And it can also be more than that too. It could be something in their lifestyle. They're in a relationship that's sucking their soul. And
I think
toxic.
That's bigger. Yeah. That's even bigger than diet. Yeah.
They're in a job that no longer feels aligned, or, they have a belief system about the world that doesn't really match up with their direct experience. So it all deserves to be looked at. And that's again, coming back to, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but coming back to the meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation is like, how Wonder Woman has her lasso, and the lasso's power is to, do you know what the power of Wonder Woman's lasso is?
Yeah. She kind of can do anything with that thing, right?
It's, you can't lie when you've been lassoed. You have to tell the truth. So it forces you to tell the truth about something. And meditation's like that. It's a truth serum. Meditation is a truth serum. It's really hard to bullshit yourself. You've been meditating for 2 or 3 years. You can't keep bullshitting yourself like a lot of people do, going to this job that they hate, or being in this relationship that they hate, or, having a relationship with themselves that they hate. You have to do something about it at a certain point. And that's what I love about it. So it kind of forces honest conversations with yourself first, and then ultimately with other people. And, that's where things start to get corrected, is through just this very honest analysis of, okay, I've been making these choices. They're clearly not working out for me anymore. Again, maybe at one point they were great, fantastic. Things have shifted. And now, there's a new understanding, and you have to acknowledge that, or you have to acknowledge, hey, I've been telling myself this old, outdated story about this thing. And it just deserves some more attention. And it doesn't mean I'm not advocating for breaking up with your partner or quitting your job, but it could be that it's time to relate to that person or relate to that job differently than you've been relating to it before. And that's where we start to see change. There is no overnight change. There's no, just like there's no overnight disease, there's no overnight change.
Yeah.
A disease or an illness that we experience happens from thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of choices of what you were eating, what you were consuming, who you were around,
Mm-hmm.
what you were exposing yourself to, and then finally it manifested itself physically. So if you want to change any of that, then you got to start making different choices about all of those same things. And it's going to take another hundreds or perhaps thousands upon thousands of choices, little by little, bit by bit, to start to make your way out of the forest and into the clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the diet is like the low hanging fruit, the thing everybody goes for first.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, wait a second, there's so much more work I have to do here.
If you're not taking care of your stress, you could
Yep.
be eating the cleanest, gluten-free, organic, farm, pasture raised, free range, whatever it is. And your body's going to treat it like McDonald's.
Yep.
Because that's what stress does. Stress shuts down the digestive capabilities and the ability to absorb minerals and nutrients from high quality food, because it takes too much energy to run away from tigers, bears, and lions, which is what your body thinks is happening. So that energy is better allocated to getting you into fight flight mode than helping you metabolize whatever salad you just ate. So if you want to get all of that optimized, you got to get rid of the stress first. Then the body will naturally take care of the other stuff.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. And that can be one of the most frustrating things, because I do try to help people. I have a lot of courses that I even have a fertility course with my partner. Her name's Carrie Bennett. And we used to have on week 6 module, it was the quantum fertility mindset. And there was, we had these videos talking about shifting your mindset. And Carrie is also a Vedic meditator as well. She learned actually right before her and I first connected in I think 2021, she had just learned. And so we kind of see eye to eye on this. And
she learned with me or with Jill, or who she learned with?
She's in Michigan. So I'm not sure who she learned from up there in Michigan.
Detroit?
Yeah.
Probably from Julie. Probably from Julie. Julie teaches in Detroit.
I'll have to ask her.
Okay.
But it's cool. She's my partner, and we're helping women that are struggling with fertility. And we used to have that as week 6, but now we actually shifted it to week 1 out of 6 weeks, because we realized that, you can do all the stuff that we talk about in this course, but if you don't get this piece down with the mindset, with the stress, with the meditation, it's going to be really difficult for your body to make those changes. And that's kind of where I got with my fertility journey. It was like, all right, I'm doing all this great stuff. It's helping. I'm feeling better. Looked the best. I was in the best shape of my life before I got pregnant, because I was doing all these great things for myself. But it wasn't until I was taking the time to make sure my meditation was on point, and then I would literally like sit in bed after my meditation and just like pretend to hold a baby. Like that's what I would do every night before bed. And every morning when I woke up, I would meditate and then pretend I was like holding this baby and feel it and have all those emotions that I had the baby, that he was already here. And I knew it was a boy the whole time. And right when I started doing that, the next month, I got that positive pregnancy test. And I was like, I wonder if I could have made that happen a little faster if I had done this first, because it's one of those things. Like I talk about circadian rhythms and circadian health and the power of the light signals that we feed, our brains and our bodies and the retina. And people are like, too easy, right? I feel like meditation is one of those things that people just are like, I'll get to that. But
it's an extracurricular activity, right?
Yeah. Like, what do I eat? What do I need? Okay. I'll jump in 30-degree cold water. Okay. I'll do cold plunging. I'll do this, but
after a week, why is it not fixing me?
Why? Yeah, no. And I get, why am I not losing weight? Why am I not healing? I'm doing everything. And I'm like, because your nervous system is
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's there. I tell my friend all the time. He's actually a nutrition coach, and I said, "Yeah, we picked the worst businesses in the Western world to be a part of, because we're in the root cause business, and the Band-Aid guys are making all the money. Do this thing real quick." And you can get 6-pack abs in a week and all this kind of nonsense. And it's just like, no, we're actually trying to get people to change like long held habits. And
Yep.
with meditation, it's the habit of distracting yourself that needs to get disrupted with sitting down. And that's why people don't want to do it. We're so addicted to distraction and doing something all the time because we've equated doing with success, right? That's what society has indoctrinated us to believe. If you're not doing something, if you're just sitting around watching TV, playing video games, watching Netflix or anything like that, then you're lazy. Or if you're
watching reels, TikTok.
Yeah, taking naps, doing, going outside, walking around with no goal in mind, staring at the clouds. What are you doing? You're lazy. You should be working and grinding and hustling, working on your first million, your first company, your first exit, and all these kinds of things. If you're not doing that, then you're behind. And so I have a little bit of that too, Here I've been meditating for 20 something years and it's still there, but you can recognize it for what it is and say, okay, this is not real. This feeling that I have to be on this treadmill and keep up with everybody else, it's not real. So let me just stop for a moment and just sit down and close my eyes and just take a beat to get back into myself, get grounded, get centered. And it's amazing because from there, when you come out of that, you can see things a lot more clearly. And it's like what Einstein said. He said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. In fact, you could argue that thinking you have a problem is a function of a certain state of consciousness. It's a narrow state of consciousness, thinking you have this problem. When you expand beyond that, you don't have the problem. It's like a child, as you'll see when your child starts talking, they're going to have these life or death moments.
Oh, yeah.
My friend said, I'm sorry I'm late. It took me 30 minutes watching my 5-year-old go through all 5 stages of grief over putting on a pair of pants,
Yeah.
It's like, but how many adults treat life like that? Like they take little things and they blow them up into these massive problems. It's like, it's not really a problem. It's just going to take you, maybe it's not going to happen in the way you thought it was supposed to happen, or it's not going to happen in the time that you wanted it to happen in. And when you kind of are able to adapt to that, then your problem goes away. But you have to expand consciousness beyond just thinking in terms of what led to that so-called problem in order to see all of the different alternate ways of doing this and the potential solutions to your problem. And so that's what meditation gives us. We come out of that and then we're able to go back into life as better versions of ourselves. And that's where, the gold is. That's where the good stuff happens.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about, because I know people are like, okay, great. I get it. We need to be meditating. It's a good thing to do. Let's talk about why. And I'll just talk about my experience. Like I kind of did a little bit earlier with meditation. When someone would even mention the word meditation, I would, and it didn't involve me listening to something in my headphones that was guided. I would literally think I would really rather staple my face to a wall than try to sit and like meditate for 5 minutes. And if you would have told me, no, you're going to be able to meditate for 20 minutes twice a day, and it's not going to, and you're going to want to do it, and you're going to feel, you're going to look forward to it, I would have said, you're out of your freaking mind. Like, no way. So maybe we can talk to people a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, that was my experience as well. Is I went from 2 minutes of meditation was absolute. I felt like I was being waterboarded, and went from there to waking up excited about meditating. And, the big takeaway from my initial training with my teacher was this idea of not going to battle with your mind, which again, we've heard before. People say, notice your thoughts, let go of, your expectations and all these kinds of things. And it sounds wonderful, but it's still hard to actually embody. And that was something that I really appreciated being exposed to, was like it's kind of like a technique. You can call it a technique for understanding how to meditate in concert with the thinking mind. And it obviously uses a mantra. Everyone has like a personalized mantra. And so the mantra becomes a bit of an anchor for the mind to go from the surface level of awareness, where you're essentially hyper aware of all of those thousands upon thousands of thoughts. And it sort of drops you down. I would say it's actually less like an anchor. It's more like a weight belt. If you've ever been scuba diving before, you have to wear these weight belts because your body naturally is buoyant in the water. So you need something a little heavier to get you to drop down towards the bottom of the ocean. And that's what the weight belts are used for. And then when you get ready to go back up, you take the weights off and you can just float right back up. Or you can float back up with your breathing if you're using enough energy in your breath. So, but yeah, that's kind of what the mantra's job is to steer you away from that surface level of awareness down into the depths of your awareness. And then the irony there is that when you start to go deeper and deeper, you have fewer and fewer thoughts. You have less and less awareness. And so the time starts to go faster and faster. And it makes the meditation experience feel better and better. And but you'll never know that you're there while you're there because there's not enough awareness to let you know that you're there. But that's also a good thing because that's what causes the experience to go by really fast. And then you come out and you feel like you just took a 3-hour nap, even though it's just been a 20-minute meditation, which is, again, very remarkable compared to my old experiences of sitting there, staring at the back of my eyelids, peeking at the clock. 1 minute felt like an hour, and it's like, wow, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I thought I kind of knew what I was doing, but turned out it was a case of the blind leading the blind, because the people who were teaching me didn't know what the hell they were doing either. And when I finally found someone who did know what he was doing, that's when everything changed.
Yeah. And it's just going back to the mantra. It's not like I think a lot of people are scared it's religious, or it's none of that. It's like kind of like a sound, right? It's I think it vibrates in your body after you say it and you kind of let go of it. You're not like intentionally sitting there like mantra, like you can.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a way and a technique to doing that as well, because you don't want to just like have it like clutching onto it. And that's kind of what your whole body does, is it kind of just like, okay, I can let go of this.
Yeah, the whole thing is like this beautiful dance, between your mind and whatever else is happening, and sleep and thoughts, and noises and distractions. And so the mantra is there as again, it's like just a navigational thing, just telling you to do less, do least, do nothing. And then eventually the mantra can even go away and you're not aware of that either. So
my mantra is probably like all jacked up. Like I got a new one when I was in Bali with Teo, and I'm sure that I am not even saying like the right thing, because while I was in Bali, like I was all freaked out. I'm like, okay, I don't think I know my mantra. And I kept having these like mantra checks. And I'm like, now it's all these years later. That was in 2019. And I was just thinking the other day, I'm like, I'm probably just not even saying anything close to like, or, like
that's what's supposed to happen. Your mantra is going to change and shift and transform to match you.
Yeah.
So, people think, there's only a certain number of mantras. Yes, that's true. There are only just like there are a certain number of shoe sizes in the world, right? So everyone's feet, all 8 billion of us, our feet mostly fit into one of those, however many, couple dozen shoe sizes. But no 2 shoes are going to fit exactly alike after wearing them for 3 years.
Right.
If 2 people wear the same style shoe for 3 years and then they accidentally put on each other's shoes, you're going to know right away, these are not my shoes. And the mantra is kind of like that too. Using the mantra over years and years causes it to kind of shape to the user. And so it's going to sound a little different for you than it is with someone else who may have the same mantra from however long ago. So that's by design, actually. So you want it to get to a point where you don't recognize it. That means it's actually working better. Yeah. But it needs to start in the place where it starts. You can't start out with it sounding crazy and then expecting it to be effective.
Yeah. And I had one other question. So I don't know if you're familiar at all with the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack and kind of the fourth phase of water. So that's kind of what I talk about. It's I highly recommend getting this book if you want to learn some stuff about structured water. The fourth phase of water by Dr. Gerald Pollack.
I'm gonna write this down. The fourth phase of water. Okay. The fourth phase of water. Got it.
So let me tell you where I'm going with this, because I want to know I've been thinking about this since I've been studying all of this. So we have in our body, we're 99% water molecule. Everyone's like, oh, we're 70% water. I'm like, actually, we're 99% water molecule. Like, so every cell in our body is surrounded by water, and it has like a negative charge, right? So what the mantra does, and have you looked at the work of Masaru Emoto at all?
Yeah, I talked about him in Bliss More.
Okay, yes. Okay, so how our body is 99% water molecule. Mm-hmm. So I think when we're doing this, when we're saying this mantra, it's also helping to structure the water within our bodies, right? So when the water is structured, it's healthy, and there's communication happens in the body at the speed of light. We're so like stuck on this this biochemical model of the body and getting blood tests and lab tests for that. But we can shift and we can change because of this water network in the body like that. And Veda Austin is another person who's doing beautiful work right now around water. I think you would love her work. We did like a 2.5 hour interview, and she showed me all these slides from her book, and her work is replicated now. She's actually able to have people replicate her work around the world in a Petri dish. So she'll take a Petri dish of water and either write something underneath it like love, or even have a thought, and then freeze it. She has this freezing method, and she's having people replicate it. And you can actually transfer consciousness into this water and have it freeze, and it look like the thing that you've either written the word or you've had the thought. I mean, it's just fascinating. And I'm thinking, like, how does this mantra kind of maybe adding to that ability of the water inside of our body to structure, and then this kind of more of a coherent healing on that cellular level happening that much faster? Like, it's just kind of made me think about it the last few days, right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually use Emoto's water experiments as an example of how the mantra works with the body, and uses vibration and frequency. I mean, we don't have probably a lot of time to get into it, but everything is frequency. Everything is vibrating all the time. And so there's this law of resonance, and it's kind of the same thing. We'll stay away from that, because people have dismissed Emoto's work as well, Veda's been able to actually quantify it, and now the top water scientists around the world are listening to her. I mean, it's really fascinating stuff. But something that can easily be verified by anyone with the right equipment is if you have two musical instruments in the same room, and you pluck the E chord of the guitar, the E chord of the other instrument is going to vibrate without anybody touching it, and only the E chord. And so there's that symbiotic resonance that happens when certain frequencies are in play. And that's what the mantra was first discovered to be able to do, was it can activate the frequency for deep relaxation in the mind and the body when it's being used in the right way, when it's being used in a passive way, not in an active way. And that's the real difference when people talk about, you have a mantra, so it's mantra meditation. So you chant the mantra. If you chant the mantra, it's not going to work in the same way. So that's part of the art of it. And that's what you learned and that's what changed everything for me. My whole relationship with meditation is that I learned to stop doing so much. I was doing too much in meditation. And that's 90% of the reason why it felt so difficult. Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of
the theme of the new book that you've got out is just travel light, right? And maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because I feel like I could probably talk to you another hour, but I know you're a busy person. So let's talk a little bit about your book so people can go out and get that.
Well, Travel Light, the subtitle is Spiritual Minimalism to Live a More Fulfilled Life. So it's minimalism from the inside out, not from, let me clear out the living room and the closets and under the bed, and hopefully I'll feel a sense of Zen. That's not how Zen works. You can have the most sparse living room and organized closets and still feel miserable if you felt miserable before. So what Travel Light is helping people do, and I have a minimalist approach to meditation in there, which is again, doing less, doing least, and ultimately doing nothing, is to cultivate fulfillment and spaciousness inside, to let go of the internal clutter, the emotional baggage. And then from there, you expand your consciousness and you're able to do less and accomplish more.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'll make sure I have that linked down in the show notes for everybody. And if they want to follow you, you've got a really awesome Instagram page. It's Light Watkins, right?
My name, Light Watkins. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Light. This has been really awesome. I'm so excited to get the email to reconnect. And
absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad we were able to make this happen. And I look forward to seeing you again in person at some point soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode with my friend and teacher, Light Watkins. It was such an honor to have him here on the show after knowing him for all these years and just enjoying this style of meditation that's really done a lot for me in my life and helping me manage stress, having a special needs child with a lot of medical issues and a new baby. It's a lot going on. So having a practice like this has been very, very instrumental to me and my husband as well. I really appreciate Light and all of the work that he does. I wanted to thank you one more time for listening to today's episode. Check out those sponsors, Viva Rays for those circadian glasses. Another great way to cut down on your cortisol is making sure you're blocking artificial light at night. So check out Viva Rays to help you accomplish that with the glasses or using their eye mask, and upgraded formulas, code YOGI12 or YOGI to save there on their hair tissue mineral analysis with a consultation or any of their mineral supplements. Thanks again for listening to today's show. Leave me that review over on Apple or Spotify. If it is on your heart, it would very much help. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.